Hey guys, Christmas is here. It's extremely cold outside. I have presents that I need to wrap. It's the best time of year, Christmas time. So today we're going to intersect the Christmas season, the holiday, with football. Tifo Football is going to explain the Christmas Day truce of 1914, and I'm here for the history. Let's dive in. This is one of my favorite times in history too.
Spanning 1914 to 1918, the First World War was a devastating watershed for the 20th century. Huge armies deployed new weapons to devastating effect. Empires crumbled, revolution engulfed Russia, and America rose to become a dominant world power. By the war's end...
I mean, we came in the end and we helped a little bit, but I don't think really America established themselves as a dominant power until World War II. At least like a dominating power. World War II is when America really rose and shone. I mean, we had some good moments in World War I there, but we came in really late. We definitely helped, but this is not a history channel. But
an estimated 16 million soldiers and civilians had died, with countless others physically and psychologically wounded. Its shadow looms large to this day. But there are a few moments of hope that shine out from those dark days, none more so than the Christmas Day truce of 1914. And there are examples of similar smaller ceasefires in earlier conflicts dating back to the American Civil War, but nothing before nor since matched the scale of the Christmas truces. Sworn enemies putting down their weapons to exchange gifts and have a friendly kickabout. But what really happened that day, and how did it come about? The First World War was a global conflict fought on many fronts, across Eastern and Southern Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, but is typified by the consciousness at the Western Front and trench warfare. And it was these very particular, grim, monotonous, and muddy circumstances that set the stage for one of the most unlikely of wartime interludes. The heavy firepower and early heavy casualties of fighting along this front led to soldiers digging into positions to protect themselves from a sustained volley of bullets. The entrenched position...
Have you guys ever seen the movie 1917? It's a fantastic film. It really breaks down this trench warfare. It's done in such a beautiful cinematic way. It's like shot continuously, so they don't cut scenes. It follows it pretty continuously. 1917 is a great film. I'm sorry that I paused to interject, but as you can tell, I love history. I love learning. That's why this is Luke Sports Academy. You should subscribe.
Led to stalemate, with artillery and explosives developed to blast the enemy from their positions. By the time winter approached in 1914, it was still early in the war, but it had been suitably grueling for each side to bed into their trenches for the winter. Many had expected a swift victory. Instead, the war had become a miserable grind. Long days with not very much happening. Countless soldiers were living in misery in the trenches on the fronts, while tens of thousands had already died. But then, Christmas Eve came, and a chance to break the monotony. Grimly holding position in their trenches, each side was low in morale, but the festive spirit had been kindled with gifts sent from back home such as chocolates and cigarettes. The Germans started singing Stille Nacht. Now, the Allies may not have recognized the words, but they knew the tune, Silent Night. And then the British troops joined in, and soon, tentatively, they were meeting and exchanging greetings in no man's land. The pause in fighting allowed each side to bury their dead, share a moment of empathy in all the misery and madness. Good faith established and a willingness to share a moment of peace, Christmas Day 1914 saw small pockets of French, German, Belgian and British troops hold impromptu ceasefires across the Western Front, with reports of some on the Eastern Front as well. The men exchanged gifts, chatted, and most iconically, had a game of football. One British fighter named Ernie Williams recalls the moment. The ball appeared from somewhere, I don't know where. They made up some goals and one fellow went in goal and then it was just a general kickabout. I should think there were a couple of hundred taking part. German Lieutenant Kurt Zemisch of the 100...
Yeah, so I was doing some research on this, and apparently there's actually a debate among scholars on whether or not there was actually a football game during the truce. There's a few journal entries that record a kickabout, but I think the debate is whether or not it was an organized game or if it was just just some guys kicking a ball. But I fall in the camp that there absolutely was at least some football played, whether it's just them kicking the ball around and they have some goals set up. Either way, it's wild to me that there would be peace, amidst the killing, amidst the brutal part of war. There's men out here who were just 24 hours ago trying to kill each other, and now they're, kicking a football around. It's just an amazing story, if you ask me. But the debate, there's debates about everything in history.
34 Saxons infantry, a school teacher, describes the game in his diary. Eventually the English brought a soccer ball from their trenches, and pretty soon a lively game ensued. How marvellously wonderful, yet how strange it was.
Here we have it in 1914. There's a teacher who says that the English brought a soccer ball. You guys claim that us Americans are the start of that. It's an English word. It's association footballer, soccer. All right.
Thus Christmas, the celebration of love, managed to bring mortal enemies together as friends for a time. Well, the German and British soldiers didn't always have a ball. Instead, they improvised. On certain sections of the front, soldiers kicked around a lump of straw tied together with string, or even an empty jam box. According to letters and diaries, many of the passes went wildly astray and shot off the icy pitch. The soldiers used sticks of wood, their caps, and steel helmets as goalposts, and the games lasted about an hour. The sleep-deprived players then collapsed, exhausted. Now, the frequency of these games across the whole of the front is logistically questionable. The land between the trenches was often torn up from gunfire and shrapnel and covered by bodies lying in no man's land or flung onto barbed wire. And the reports of football matches didn't come out of every regiment. Most soldiers didn't report participating in matches. Instead, they met with their enemies in no man's land and traded a variety of goods while attempting to engage in conversation with them. Of course, military leaders on both sides of the conflict were enraged by the apparent softening of attitudes. But it wasn't just generals who put paid to any further men-led truces. In the war years that followed, British poet Robert Graves, who fought, suggests why the truces were never repeated. Warfare had grown impersonal, the desire to wage it quite personal. Today, a memorial stands in England's National Memorial Arboretum commemorating the Christmas truce. It was dedicated by Prince William of England. On the 100th anniversary in 2014, the British and German army soccer teams staged a friendly match in England in remembrance of the soldiers' impromptu football game in 1914, and the British team won 1-0. Now, as stories go, the Christmas truce has been embellished, really cool, focusing on the friendly kickabout over the burying of the dead, but stopping a war to play football is just too enduring an image. It speaks of who we want to be, of nostalgia and fair play, of gentlemen's agreements, and, most importantly, the power of football to unite.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, with everything in history, we tend to do that. We tend to see the part of history that we want to see, and we tend to highlight that and embellish that because it illustrates something. But I think that even if there wasn't, the main focus of the truth wasn't football, to me it's interesting that football would have been a part of what these men did, during the truce. I hope that we've moved into a place where war doesn't have to happen anymore, but we're still living in a society where you've got countries at war, and it's an unfortunate thing that happens, but as long as there are human beings on this planet and human beings have the opportunity to gain power, we're gonna have wars that take place. And to see that these men, for just one day on Christmas, decided, hey, we're going to lay the guns down, we're gonna kick a football around, have some fair play, we're going to compete in a non-violent, killing way. It's also surprising to me, when you play, if you were playing a really organized match, how violent and how competitive it can get. You see the tensions rise and the emotions rise in an actual football game. So the fact that the tensions didn't escalate so much that they just start killing each other there, is pretty crazy. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you like to learn about the history of football, learn about sports in general, I'd consider subscribing to the channel. I like to do some historical content here. I like to actually dig into the history of the beautiful game, but I also have reaction videos to Messi versus physics. I've got all these other kinds of videos about football on the channel. So consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.